The year is 1500, and the sun barely peeks over the stone walls of York when the entire city starts buzzing with an energy you can feel in your bones. Today isn't just another day in medieval England. Today, the streets themselves are about to become the stage for one of the most spectacular shows you've never heard of. Forget Broadway. Forget Hollywood. What's about to unfold in these narrow cobblestone streets makes modern theatre look like a casual dress rehearsal. Picture this: an entire city transforming into a massive outdoor theatre where every street corner becomes a stage, every guild member becomes an actor, and every citizen becomes part of an audience, witnessing something that happens only once a year. This is the Corpus Christi Pageant, and what you're about to discover will completely change how you think about medieval entertainment. Now, before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we're about to take you on a journey through one of history's most fascinating theatrical traditions. Give this video a like if you're already intrigued, and definitely drop a comment about what you find most interesting as we follow one young performer through what might be the most important day of his life. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one. The air in York carries a different quality this morning. It's thick with anticipation and the smell of fresh paint mixing with wood smoke from breakfast fires. Guild members have been up since before dawn, their hands already stained with the bright pigments they've been applying to massive wooden wagons. These aren't ordinary carts. These are pageant wagons, each one a mobile stage that will carry biblical stories through the streets of the city. Our story follows a nervous young lad who's been chosen to play a shepherd in today's performance. His stomach churns with excitement and terror in equal measure. This isn't his first time in a pageant, but it might as well be. Every year feels like stepping into a completely different world, where the familiar streets of his childhood become something magical and strange. The guild men work with practiced efficiency, their movements synchronized like a well-rehearsed dance. These painted wagons are marvels of medieval engineering. Each one stands about 12 feet high, with a stage platform that extends out over the wheels. Below the stage, a hidden area serves as a dressing room and storage space for props. Above, colourful banners and carved decorations catch the early morning light. The wheels creak and groan as the wagons are hauled into position at the first station. Heavy wooden chocks get wedged behind each wheel, securing these mobile theatres for their first performance of the day. The pageant master walks from wagon to wagon, his sharp eyes checking every detail. He's the conductor of this elaborate orchestra, responsible for making sure dozens of separate performances flow together into one cohesive story. A bookholder stands nearby, clutching the precious manuscript that contains all the lines, cues, and stage directions. In an age where most people can't read, this person holds incredible power. They're the living memory of the performance, ready to whisper forgotten lines or correct mistakes before the audience notices. Their job requires perfect attention because one missed cue could throw off an entire scene. A priest makes his way down the line of wagons, offering blessings and checking for anything that might need spiritual or practical mending. The church takes these performances seriously. The Corpus Christi pageant isn't just entertainment, it's religious education for a largely illiterate population. Every scene must tell its biblical story clearly and correctly. Our young shepherd helps lash a painted backdrop into place, his hands shaking slightly from nerves rather than the morning chill. The backdrop depicts rolling hills and a starry sky, painted with surprising skill by local craftsmen who've spent weeks preparing for this day. He runs through his lines under his breath, warming his voice and trying to calm his racing heart. The crowd begins to gather even before the official start time. Fishwives pause on their way to market, their baskets of fresh catch balanced on their hips. Craftsmen emerge from their workshops, wiping sawdust or flour from their hands. Friars in brown robes move through the crowd, their presence a reminder of the holy nature of what's about to unfold. Children clutch pieces of flatbread, their wide eyes already fixed on the colourful wagons. The diversity of the audience tells its own story about medieval York. Rich merchants in fine wool cloaks stand shoulder to shoulder with labourers in patched tunics. Nobles from the countryside have traveled into the city specifically for this event. Visitors from other towns crowd the streets, turning the pageant into a regional attraction that brings trade and prestige to York. When the signal comes to begin, the transformation is immediate and dramatic. The cart rolls forward with a rumble of wooden wheels on stone, and suddenly the ordinary street becomes something else entirely. A chorus of voices rises, filling the air with harmonies that seem to lift straight to heaven. Our shepherd boy hits his first line, and the world narrows to nothing but the stage beneath his feet and the faces looking up at him. This moment captures something profound about medieval performance. Unlike modern theatre, where audiences sit in darkened rooms watching distant stages, the Corpus Christi pageant brings the story directly to the people. The performers are close enough to see individual faces in the crowd, to gauge reactions, to adjust their delivery based on the response they're getting. Between stations, there's controlled chaos. Musicians pipe the cart along, their melodies serving as a soundtrack for the procession and a signal to gather crowds at the next stop. Guild stewards move through the performers, passing cups of watered wine and small sweets to keep throats from failing during the long day ahead. These practical considerations matter enormously when you're performing the same scenes multiple times across the city. Small repairs happen on the move. A loose pin gets hammered back into place. A slipped strap gets retied. A wheel that started to wobble gets a wooden wedge knocked into position. The pageant wagons are marvels of engineering, but they're also working vehicles that need constant attention during their journey through the streets. At each new station, the story lands fresh. The same lines delivered to a different crowd create entirely new moments. Laughter erupts at a comic aside that caught this particular audience just right. A hush falls during the holy parts, as if the entire crowd is holding its breath together. Gold leaf on costumes and props catches the sun, creating flashes of divine light that add to the spiritual atmosphere. The young shepherd begins to find his rhythm. His voice grows stronger with each performance. His gestures become more confident. He starts to understand something that experienced actors have always known. The audience is part of the performance. Their reactions feed back into the energy on stage, creating a loop of connection that makes each show unique. Midday brings a brief rest in a quiet lane away from the main procession route. The performers share bread and sip weak ale, their voices hoarse but spirits high. A guild member touches up the cracked paint on a halo with a small brush, making sure every detail remains perfect for the afternoon crowds. These small moments of camaraderie bind the cast together, creating friendships that will last long after the pageant ends. The afternoon crowds are thicker and more boisterous than the morning audiences. Word has spread about particularly good performances, and people have been following the wagons from station to station. Our shepherd notices familiar faces in the crowd, people who've been watching his transformation throughout the day. This recognition gives him a surge of confidence that carries him through the most challenging scenes. As the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, the pageant reaches its climactic moments. The final stations draw the largest crowds, with people packed into every available space. Balconies overflow with spectators. Children perch on their fathers' shoulders for better views. The energy is electric, building toward the grand finale that will cap off this extraordinary day. The final performance carries weight that our young shepherd can feel in his bones. His voice rings out steady and sure, his hands gripping his shepherd's staff with newfound confidence. The crowd presses closer, drawn by the magnetic pull of a story they've heard before, but never tire of experiencing. This is the magic of the Corpus Christi pageant, familiar tales made fresh through the alchemy of live performance and community participation. What strikes you about these final scenes is how the entire city seems to breathe together. Hundreds of people from every walk of life stand united in this moment. their differences temporarily forgotten in the shared experience of witnessing something sacred and spectacular. The baker's apprentice stands next to the Lord's daughter, both equally captivated by the unfolding drama. The technical achievement of these performances becomes even more impressive when you consider the logistics involved. Each guild responsible for a wagon has spent months preparing, not just the actors, but the craftsmen who built the sets, the seamstresses who created the costumes, the musicians who composed the accompaniments. This isn't amateur hour. These are skilled professionals putting their reputations on the line in front of their neighbours and peers. The costumes themselves tell fascinating stories about medieval craftsmanship and creativity. Our shepherds' simple robes might look basic, but they're carefully constructed to withstand a full day of movement and multiple performances. The angels' wings are engineering marvels, designed to unfold dramatically while remaining sturdy enough for repeated use. Devil costumes incorporate clever mechanisms that allow for sudden appearances and disappearances that leave audiences gasping. Guild rivalries add another layer of complexity to the proceedings. Each group of craftsmen wants their wagon to outshine the others. The goldsmiths spare no expense on glittering decorations. The carpenters showcase their skills through elaborate set pieces. The textile workers display their finest fabrics. Competition breeds excellence, and the audience benefits from this friendly rivalry. The religious significance of these performances can't be overstated. In an era when most people never travel more than a few miles from their birthplace, the Corpus Christi pageant brings the grand sweep of biblical history directly to their doorstep. The creation of the world, the fall of man, the flood, the exodus from Egypt, the birth and death of Christ, all of it unfolds in vivid, memorable detail right in their own streets. But there's something else happening here that goes beyond religious instruction. The pageant creates a shared cultural experience that binds the community together. Children who watch today will remember these performances for the rest of their lives. They'll tell their own children about the year the angel's wing caught fire, or when the actor playing Noah forgot his lines and had to improvise his way through the flood scene. The economic impact of the pageant ripples through the entire city. Visitors from surrounding areas bring money to spend on food, lodging, and goods. Local merchants see their best sales day of the year. Craftsmen receive commissions for costumes and props. The pageant isn't just cultural enrichment, it's economic development disguised as entertainment. As evening approaches, the atmosphere becomes almost otherworldly. Torches begin to flicker to life along the procession route. The golden hour light transforms ordinary stone buildings into something magical. Shadows dance across the faces of performers and spectators alike, creating an atmosphere that feels suspended between the earthly and the divine. The young shepherd notices how his fellow performers have changed throughout the day. The nervous energy of mourning has transformed into something deeper, a shared understanding that they've participated in something larger than themselves. They've helped their entire community experience transcendence together, turning familiar streets into sacred space through the power of collective imagination. The music that accompanies each wagon deserves special attention. These aren't random tunes picked from a songbook. Each melody is carefully chosen to enhance the emotional impact of its corresponding scene. The musicians, often guild members themselves, have rehearsed for weeks to perfect their timing. Their instruments might seem simple compared to modern orchestras, but in the hands of skilled players, they create soundscapes that transport audiences completely. The interaction between performers and audience reaches its peak during these final hours. Lines blur between who's watching and who's performing. Audience members call out responses, cheer for favourite characters, and boo the villains with genuine emotion. This isn't passive entertainment. It's participatory theatre at its most powerful. The craft guilds that organise these pageants represent something remarkable about medieval society. These aren't wealthy nobles throwing elaborate parties for their own amusement. These are working people, bakers, brewers, carpenters, metal workers, pooling their resources and talents to create something magnificent for their entire community. It's grassroots cultural production at its finest. The pageant wagons themselves are works of art that would impress modern museum visitors. Hand-carved details, intricate painted scenes, ingenious mechanical devices for special effects, all created by craftsmen working with basic tools and unlimited imagination. Some of these wagons cost more than a comfortable house, representing enormous investments by their sponsoring guilds. Weather plays a crucial role in every pageant, and today the conditions are perfect. Clear skies mean the painted decorations show their true colours. Gentle breezes keep performers from overheating in their elaborate costumes. The absence of rain means delicate props and instruments remain safe. Everyone knows that a successful pageant requires not just human skill, but also divine favour. The social dynamics on display during the pageant reveal fascinating details about medieval life. You can read the city's entire social hierarchy in the way people position themselves to watch. The best viewing spots go to the wealthy and powerful, but even the humblest citizens find ways to see the action. Children squeeze through crowds, servants peer from doorways, and everyone finds their place in this temporary community. Our shepherd boy has learned something profound today about the power of performance to transform both performer and audience. He's discovered that stepping into character doesn't mean losing yourself. It means finding new aspects of who you might become. The confidence he's gained on this makeshift stage will serve him well in whatever future awaits. The technical challenges of moving these elaborate productions through narrow medieval streets would impress modern logistics experts. Coordinating dozens of wagons, hundreds of performers, and thousands of spectators requires planning that would make a military commander proud. Yet somehow, through a combination of tradition, practice, and sheer determination, it all works. The afternoon sun casts longer shadows now, and something magical happens during these final hours that sets the Corpus Christi pageant apart from any other form of entertainment. The boundaries between sacred and secular start to dissolve completely. What began as religious instruction has become something deeper. A shared dream that an entire city is having together while wide awake. Our young shepherd notices how the crowd has changed since morning. These aren't just spectators anymore. They've become part of the story itself. Children who started the day clutching their parents' hands are now calling out warnings to biblical characters about dangers they can see coming. Adults who arrived as skeptical observers find themselves wiping away tears during the crucifixion scene. The guild rivalries that seemed so important at dawn have transformed into something more collaborative. When the carpenter's wagon develops a wobbly wheel, the metal workers rush to help with repairs. When an actor from the Baker's Guild loses his voice, a performer from the Weavers steps in to cover his lines. Competition has given way to community spirit, proving that sometimes the best way to win is to make sure everyone succeeds. The most fascinating aspect of these final performances is how they've evolved throughout the day. The same script, the same blocking, the same costumes, but each iteration has become subtly different. Actors have picked up on what works with audiences and amplified those moments. Comic timing has been refined through repetition. Dramatic pauses have been perfected through practice. Musicians have developed an almost telepathic connection with their audiences. They know exactly when to swell the melody to heighten emotion, when to drop to a whisper to draw people in, when to explode with sound to punctuate a dramatic moment. These aren't professional entertainers. They're craftsmen who happen to have musical talent, but their instincts are as sharp as any concert performer. The pageant master moves through the final stations with the focused intensity of a general commanding troops. Every wagon must hit its marks precisely. Every performer must deliver their best work. The reputation of the entire city rests on these final hours because visitors from surrounding areas will carry stories of today's performances back to their own communities. Guild stewards continue their careful work, ensuring that every performer remains in peak condition for these crucial final scenes. Throats get soothed with honey and herbs, costumes receive last-minute adjustments, props get touched up with fresh paint. Nothing can be left to chance when the stakes are this high. The young shepherd's transformation throughout the day represents something profound about the nature of performance itself. He's discovered that confidence isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something that grows through doing. Each successful line delivery has built on the previous one. Each positive audience reaction has added to his store of courage. What strikes modern observers about these medieval performances is their incredible efficiency. Every element serves multiple purposes simultaneously. The music entertains while also signaling scene changes. The costumes dazzle while also clearly identifying characters for illiterate audiences. The staging creates spectacle while also conveying religious messages with crystal clarity. The economic machinery behind the pageant becomes most visible during these final hours. Guild treasurers carefully count coins dropped into collection boxes. Merchants calculate the day's exceptional sales figures. Innkeepers prepare for their busiest evening of the year. The pageant isn't just cultural expression, it's the medieval equivalent of a major economic stimulus package. The technical mastery required for these final scenes becomes even more impressive when you consider the primitive tools available. Stage effects that would challenge modern theatre groups are pulled off with nothing but rope, pulleys, and human ingenuity. Angels appear to fly through the air. Devils seem to emerge from the earth itself. Fire and smoke effects create otherworldly atmospheres. Guild secrets closely guard many of these technical innovations. The methods for creating convincing blood effects, the mechanisms for making wings unfold dramatically, the techniques for creating booming voices that carry over crowd noise. All of this knowledge gets passed down through generations of craftsmen like precious family recipes. The crowd's energy during these final performances reaches levels that would be familiar to anyone who's attended a major sporting event. People cheer for favourite characters, groan at villain schemes, and gasp at dramatic revelations they've seen dozens of times before. Familiarity doesn't breed contempt here. It breeds deeper appreciation for masterful storytelling. Children who've followed the entire procession are exhausted but exhilarated. They've witnessed the entire sweep of human history unfold before their eyes. They've seen creation and destruction, triumph and tragedy, all delivered with the immediacy that no written account could match. These experiences will shape their understanding of the world for the rest of their lives. The costumes worn during these final scenes show the wear and tear of a full day's performance, but somehow this adds to, rather than detracts from their impact. A slightly tattered angel robe suggests the wear of celestial battles. A devil's mask marked with sweat speaks to the intensity of evil's efforts. These aren't museum pieces. They're working clothes for working actors. Guild pride reaches its peak during these final stations. Years of planning and preparation come down to these crucial moments. Reputations built over decades can be enhanced or damaged based on today's performance. The pressure is enormous, but so is the satisfaction when everything comes together perfectly. The religious impact of these performances becomes most powerful during the final scenes depicting Christ's passion and resurrection. The crowd falls into reverent silence during the crucifixion. Many people openly weep. When the resurrection scene begins, the explosion of joy is palpable. This isn't just drama, it's shared worship on a massive scale. Our shepherd boy finds himself part of something that transcends individual performance. He's become one voice in a chorus that includes not just the other actors, but the entire audience. Everyone present is participating in this story, whether they're on stage or in the crowd. The distinction between performer and spectator has completely dissolved. The afternoon light creates natural spotlights, that no modern theatre could improve upon. Golden beams slant between buildings, illuminating performers at crucial dramatic moments. Shadows add depth and mystery to scenes. The entire city has become a perfectly lit stage, with the sun itself serving as master lighting designer. Guild rivalries that seemed so important in the morning have been replaced by mutual admiration. The goldsmiths applaud the carpenter's clever mechanical effects. The textile workers praise the metalworkers' ingenious sound devices. Competition has evolved into collaboration, proving that art has the power to bring out the best in human nature. The pageant's impact on social hierarchy becomes most visible during these final hours. Rich and poor, noble and common, all stand together as equals before these sacred stories. A merchant's daughter finds herself crying alongside a fisherman's son. A lord's steward shares his viewing space with a baker's apprentice. The pageant creates temporary democracy through shared emotional experience. Musicians adapt their performances to the changing energy of each crowd. What worked perfectly at the morning stations might fall flat with the evening audience. Skilled performers read these subtle changes and adjust accordingly. The same song might be played faster, slower, louder, or softer, depending on the crowd's mood and energy level. The young shepherd's voice has grown stronger and more confident with each performance, but more importantly, he's learned to use it as an instrument of connection rather than just communication. He's discovered that performing isn't about showing off, it's about serving the story and serving the audience. This understanding will serve him well, whether he continues performing or returns to other pursuits. Guildmasters watch these final performances with the critical eyes of master craftsmen evaluating apprentice work. They note which innovations succeed, which traditional approaches still work best, which performers show promise for future years. The pageant serves as both entertainment and training ground for the next generation of community leaders. The physical demands of performing the same roles repeatedly throughout the day have pushed everyone to their limits. But somehow, the performers find reserves of energy they didn't know they possessed. Adrenaline and audience support combine to carry actors through moments when their bodies want to quit, but their spirits refuse to give up. The pageant's educational mission becomes most clear during these final scenes. Complex theological concepts get presented in ways that children and adults alike can understand and remember. The abstract becomes concrete through visual storytelling. Faith becomes tangible through shared emotional experience. As the sun continues its westward journey, the quality of light begins to change in ways that add even more drama to the performances. Longer shadows create natural stage effects. Golden hour lighting makes even simple costumes look magnificent. The approaching evening adds urgency to the final scenes, as if time itself is participating in the drama. The young shepherd realizes that he's not just playing a character, he's become part of a living tradition that stretches back generations and will continue long after he's gone. The lines he's speaking have been spoken by countless other young men in countless other pageants. He's become a link in a chain that connects past, present and future. The crowd's anticipation reaches fever pitch as the final wagons approach their ultimate stations. You can feel the electricity in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. Our shepherd boy's hands no longer shake as he grips his staff. The nervous energy that consumed him at dawn has transformed into something far more powerful, pure theatrical instinct. The guild treasurers position themselves strategically near each wagon, their collection boxes ready to receive the coins that will fund next year's spectacle. But money seems almost secondary now. What matters is the magic happening between performers and audience, the invisible threads connecting every soul in these packed streets. The final scenes demand everything from the actors. Voices that have been used all day must somehow find new reserves of power. Bodies that have performed the same movements dozens of times must discover fresh authenticity. The young shepherd watches veteran performers dig deep into wells of experience he's only just beginning to discover. A master craftsman from the Goldsmiths Guild whispers encouragement to a trembling angel whose wings have started to droop. The metalworker's devil adjusts his mask one final time, preparing for his most dramatic entrance. The carpenter's Noah checks his arc prop, making sure every joint will hold for these crucial final moments. The bookholder moves through the staging area like a guardian angel, ready to catch any forgotten lines before they become disasters. In his weathered hands, the manuscript represents months of preparation distilled into this single afternoon. Every word has been rehearsed, every cue practiced, every entrance choreographed to perfection. Something remarkable happens during these final performances that sets them apart from everything that came before. The actors stop performing and start inhabiting their roles completely. The young shepherd no longer thinks about his lines. They flow from him as naturally as breathing. His gestures become unconscious. His voice finds perfect pitch without effort. The audience senses this transformation immediately. The restless energy that marked earlier performances gives way to absolute focus. Children stop fidgeting, adults lean forward, even the vendors hawking their wares fall silent, drawn into the spell being woven on these mobile stages. Guild rivalries that simmered all morning have completely evaporated. When the brewer's wagon develops a loose banner, the bakers rush to help secure it. When a musician from the weavers drops his instrument, a carpenter retrieves it without missing a beat. Competition has become collaboration in the truest sense. The pageant master surveys his domain with the satisfaction of a general watching a perfectly executed battle plan. Every wagon hits its mark precisely. Every performer delivers their peak performance. Every audience member becomes part of the story being told. This is coordination on a scale that would impress modern event planners. The religious power of these final scenes becomes almost overwhelming. When the crucifixion wagon reaches its station, grown men remove their caps in reverence. Women clutch their children closer. The actor portraying Christ delivers his lines with such conviction that several spectators openly weep. This isn't entertainment, it's communal worship. Our shepherd boy experiences something he'll remember for the rest of his life. Standing on that wooden platform, looking out at hundreds of faces all focused on the story he's helping to tell, he understands what it means to be part of something larger than himself. The individual disappears into the collective experience. The technical mastery displayed during these final performances would challenge modern theatre groups. Devils appear and disappear through trapdoors built into the wagon floors. Angels seem to descend from heaven using ingenious pulley systems hidden in the backdrop. Fire effects create otherworldly atmospheres without setting anything ablaze. The musicians reach new heights of coordination, their melodies weaving together into harmonies that seem to lift straight to the heavens. Drums punctuate dramatic moments with precision timing. Pipes provide ethereal accompaniment to angelic appearances. Every note serves the story, while also serving the sacred nature of the day. Guild stewards continue their vigilant care of the performers, but now their work takes on almost ritual significance. A cup of wine becomes communion, a piece of bread becomes sustenance for sacred work. A gentle adjustment to a costume becomes the laying on of hands for blessing. The crowd has evolved throughout the day from passive spectators to active participants. They call out warnings to biblical characters about approaching dangers. They cheer when good triumphs over evil. They gasp at miraculous moments they've witnessed dozens of times before. Familiarity breeds not contempt, but deeper appreciation. The young shepherd notices how his fellow performers have been transformed by the day's experience. The baker's apprentice, who played an angel, now carries himself with newfound dignity. The carpenter's son, who portrayed a wise man, speaks with authority that wasn't there at dawn. Performance has changed them all. The economic impact of these final hours ripples through every corner of the city. Merchants enjoy their best sales day of the year. Innkeepers prepare for capacity crowds. Food vendors sell out their entire stock. The pageant isn't just cultural expression, it's economic stimulus that benefits everyone in the community. The costumes tell their own stories of the day's journey. What started as pristine garments now show the honest wear of hard work. A shepherd's robe bears stains from authentic stage blood. An angel's wings show scuff marks from dramatic entrances. These aren't museum pieces. They're working clothes for working miracles. The afternoon light creates natural drama that no artificial lighting could match. Golden beams slant between buildings at perfect angles to illuminate crucial moments. Shadows add depth and mystery to every scene. The sun itself seems to be participating in the performance, providing divine lighting for sacred stories. Children who started the day as restless observers have become the most engaged audience members. They've followed wagons from station to station, learning the stories so well they can anticipate every plot twist. Their wide-eyed wonder reminds adults of the magic they might have forgotten. The guild masters watch these performances with the critical eyes of master craftsmen, evaluating their life's work. Years of planning and preparation come down to these crucial hours. Reputations built over decades can be enhanced or damaged based on how well everything comes together right now. The young shepherd's voice has found power he never knew he possessed. Lines that stumbled from his tongue at dawn now ring out with authority and emotion. He's discovered that true performance isn't about showing off. It's about serving the story and serving the audience with complete dedication. The pageant's educational mission reaches its peak during these final scenes. Complex theological concepts become crystal clear through visual storytelling. Abstract ideas about good and evil become concrete through the clash of characters. Faith becomes tangible through shared emotional experience. The social impact of the pageant becomes most visible during these final hours. Rich merchants stand shoulder to shoulder with poor labourers, all equally moved by the sacred drama unfolding before them. Class distinctions temporarily disappear in the face of stories that speak to universal human experiences. Musicians have developed an almost supernatural connection with their audiences. They know exactly when to swell the melody to heighten emotion, when to drop to whispers to draw people in, when to explode with sound to punctuate dramatic moments. Their instincts are as sharp as any professional performer. The final wagon reaches its last station as the sun touches the western walls of York. Applause ripples through the crowd like waves on a shore, growing stronger as each performance concludes. Coins clink into guild chests with the satisfying sound of a year's work rewarded. Costumes get folded carefully into wicker baskets, their bright colours dimmed, but their purpose fulfilled. Our young shepherd helps push the heavy wagon back to its storage place, his muscles aching but his spirit soaring. Walking tired beside his fellow performers through the emptying streets, he understands something profound about what they've accomplished together. They've proven that ordinary people can create extraordinary magic when they work as one. The guild members who seemed like strangers at dawn now feel like family. The streets that felt foreign in the morning darkness have become a second home. The stories they've told aren't just ancient tales anymore. They're living experiences shared with an entire community. In this moment, our shepherd grasps a truth that will stay with him forever. A feast day could transform streets into stages and neighbours into companies. One long play made by a city together, where every voice mattered and every role had meaning. The Corpus Christi pageant wasn't just entertainment. It was proof that when people unite behind a common purpose, they can turn the ordinary world into something sacred and spectacular. As the last echoes of music fade from the stone walls and the final costumes disappear into storage, York settles back into its everyday rhythm. But something has changed. The city has remembered what it means to be a true community, bound together not by walls or laws, but by shared stories that connect every soul to something greater than themselves.